JSX.com. And if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. And if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, kindly do it so that you don't miss any of my videos. So without any delay, let's start a new month, November. So this is a new month, November, and in November we'll start with learning about React JSX, right? So this is a new concept for us, React JSX, and today we are gonna learn about it, and this is gonna be very interesting. So without any delay, let's get started. Jam! Okay, so I've already created what I need to tell about this, and in the end we are rendering the elements, so just don't worry about how we are rendering. I'm just showing you that in the end we are rendering the elements over here, and every element is called my element, so again and again we don't have to go there and change the variable over here, right? And today I have already done npm start and all, and our server is running, right? So first of all, we'll just see what JSX is, right? We have done all the standard imports, and now we'll see. JSX stands for JavaScript extension. So it stands for JavaScript extension, right? Okay. JSX allows us to write HTML in React. So all this HTML that you write in React is because of JSX. Because of JSX only you are able to write this HTML in React. JSX allows us to write HTML elements in JavaScript and basically in React and place them in the DOM without any create element, so you don't have to use any create element or any append child methods, right? You just need to directly create HTML elements in JSX like you do in a HTML file. So this is very powerful, guys, because without any trouble you can code in your JavaScript like you are doing in HTML. Like when you want to create a certain element using JavaScript, you get bored by writing create element and all, and you hope that you can write some HTML in JavaScript only. JSX helps you to do that, right? And in uh, right, and in the backgrounds it converts all your elements into create elements and all, right? So JSX is a very powerful JavaScript extension, right? JSX later internally converts HTML tags into React elements. So the React elements are basically the elements that you create using React.createElement, right? So you are using the basically you use the React.createElement to basically create elements, but yeah, JSX is much more easier. It is not compulsory use to use JSX in React, but JSX makes much more easier to write code in React, right? We all need to agree. It is much more easier to write plain HTML than writing React.createElement or document.createElement and all, right? So here are two examples. The first uses JSX and the second does not. So over here we have a first example where we have a constant my element that has basically an HTML tag without any quotation marks. And when we render this, it will not give us an error because we are using JSX that allows this type of syntax. And internally, it will convert it to React.createElement, right? So this is very easy. We have written over here, it has written over here, I love JSX, right? But our second example, what we are doing, we are using the React.createElement method to create the same element. So over here we have a my element equals to React.createElement, right? And we are using the create element method. First of all, we specify what the element is. So our element is h1. Then we give a second argument, that is a object that contains all the properties that it should have. Like like if this was a anchor tag, we could have given a property href, right? So all your properties come in here, all your attributes, right? And finally, whatever content you want to write in this h1 tag, you give it as the third argument. So we want to write in a h1 tag, I do not use JSX. So what this will show us, this will show us I do not use JSX, and I'm just reminding you that we are rendering all my element in at the end, right? Okay, so you can clearly differentiate between the both, that this JSX is making our code much more shorter, much more easier to understand, and much more easier to code. That's why I always prefer JSX, and other developers also prefer JSX more. But it's your choice, you want to use the create element methods or use JSX, right? But over here we are learning about JSX, right? JSX is translated into regular JavaScript at runtime. So at runtime, JSX is translated into regular JavaScript, right? Uh, right. So now we'll learn about expressions in JSX, right? So what if you wanted to basically execute an expression in JSX, like if you wanted to execute a JavaScript expression, a mathematical calculation, or any other calculation or expression, what you will do in your element, if you want to just add like text over here, like some calculation over here, right? Like if you want to add a JavaScript variables value over here, or you want to basically add a calculations value, then what you'll give these brackets, right? That allow you to write JavaScript at any certain place. So wherever you give these brackets in JSX, this will allow you to give JavaScript write JavaScript in here, right? So what we are doing, we are saying in the brackets, do 5 plus 5, that will give us 10. So it will return us 10 over here, and that 10 value will come over here, right? So it will show us React is 10 times better with JSX, right? So it is showing us React is 10 times better with JSX. So if you want to show any expression, any JavaScript expression, any want to show any calculations result, you can directly just use these curly braces, and then you can perform your calculation, or you can give your expression in it, right? And it will return you the result, right? There are a couple of rules JSX in of JSX. There are a couple of JSX rules that we need to follow, right? Our first rule is one top level element. So let's see what this rule is. Okay, so for example, you want to execute two p tags, right? Two paragraph tags. What you need to do, you always need to have them in a container element. So you need to wrap them in a container element, right? Because JSX has a rule that you can't have two elements, two separate elements. Everything should be in one container element that goes to our DOM, right? So whatever whenever we want to like, this is just the JSX rule, that it should have one top level element, right? Yeah, like over here we have two paragraphs tag, so we could not give them without the division, right? It should always have a top level element. So over here, division is our top level element over here, right? So we have given division, and in that we have given two p tags, so this will work fine. But because like we let's understand it like this, that you only have to return one element, right? You only have to give to the DOM one element, and in that element you can have as many elements as you want. You can't give two elements. So over here, if we don't give this wrapper div, it will basically try to give these two elements to our DOM. So that is not allowed. But if we wrap this with a div, then we are trying to give just one div element over here, so this will work, right? So now this will work. So I am a paragraph, and it is showing I am a paragraph 2, right? Instead of creating unnecessary DOM elements like div and all again and again, again and again, what we can use, we can also use a fragment instead, right? So over here we have a my element, and instead of basically a fragment looks like this empty element, right? So we can use a fragment to basically unnecessarily not create nodes, right? And all, right? Unnecessarily not create HTML elements and all. We can just use the fragment, and this will be taken as a wrapper at the top level element, right? So a fragment is also very helpful, right? But you can use any of the two. I mostly prefer this syntax with the divisions, right? So a second rule is that all the elements must be closed, whether it is a self-closing tag or not. Every element you define should be closed. Like over here, our in my element, the input tag is a self-closing tag, right? So you must be thinking, why are you closing it? But no, you have to close it because this is the rule of JSX, that you will have to close every element that you create when you are using JSX, right? So you have to close every element. You also have to close that BR tag that you never close in HTML, but you have to close it in JSX, because this is not HTML, guys. This is not like pure HTML. This is JSX that has quite certain rules, small rules that make a difference, right? So every element must be closed or you will get an error. So over here we'll have an input field, right? Because over here we give the input tag. Our next rule is, instead of the attribute class, we use class name. So we don't use the attribute class, we use the attribute class name, because class is a reserved keyword for making classes in JavaScript. So if you don't know about classes in JavaScript, you can either check my classes video or you can see the ES6 video where I cover classes, right, in JavaScript. So basically this class keyword is reserved for making classes in JavaScript, right? So you can't use the class basically class attribute. You have to use class name instead, right? So when JSX renders, your element that has the attribute class name, it translates the class name attribute to class, right? So that's not an issue, right? But every time you want to specify a class, you have to give it through class name, right? So we have a h1 element that has a class name of my class, right? So always have to give class name, not class, because class is a reserved keyword, right? Our next rule is, and maybe a final rule for today, is that React supports if statements but not inside JSX. So you cannot use if statements inside JSX. So basically, the JSX syntax you write, in that you cannot write if statements, but you can use the ternary operator. So let's see what this is saying. Over here, as I told you before, expressions in JSX, using an expression, we can't give an if statement over here, right? So JSX does not allow us that, right? You can give a ternary operator that we'll see in the next example, but you cannot give an if statement. So how can you use an if statement? You have a constant x, you have a text variable that has goodbye. You're checking if x is less than 10, right? So it is 5 is less than 10, so you can go in it and change the text, and in the end, when you have decided what the text should be, you can just render it using JSX, right? Basically you can save that text in a variable and then render that variable, or basically render that using the render method, and basically it will add it into your HTML DOM, and over here we see hello. So this is how you can use if statements. But if you want to use these directly inside JSX, you will have to use something called short if statements. Oh, that I made up, but it is really called the ternary operator that does kind of the same work as the if statement. So over here you have a constant variable that has 5, and in your my element what you're giving, you are giving an expression over here, right? JavaScript expression, you're checking x less than 10. We covered about ternary operators in our ESX video, so do check that out, right? So over here we are checking x less than 10, right? So if it is true, it will go over here. If it is false, it will go over here, right? So x is less than 10, so it has gone over here and it is taking this value, and it is just this code block is just returning this value, right? And now it has been encapsulated in h1, so it will show us hello again, right? And this was about JSX, guys. I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. Thank you guys. Bye. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep watching my videos. Down.